Kinok. Aka penska tsemo paki. Nog vitskits paki umkita piks. Moni da päätä biopissa. Pine toki kaki. Nuku syks enska tsiman. Tiki aatista piitsipa. Moni sitä pannissen. Nyt neistut tsipa kanää suutukseni. Sitä mietitään puutista piitsipa. Nää mohku daanispian. Pine toki takikin päätä piitsin. Oka enska tsiman taki. Akutsukaa piikit äksymistat. Kahtokumo leipoja. Aktohtsi minä ootapis. Nää suka pii kamannistumua. Aktohtsi minä kaaseta. Ahtsi sanna ja kukoisen oniksen. Matsa vaapis aktosen ake. Nek mä täpi oakin on häidepi kamotahpsika. Matsi moitskaan ikeen. Auhni tää päätäpi jo. Mä oon kehtohuna ja sukapia. Hän oksisesti koi. No kun sen nääniksi nuohvaakuus, minä kanäätäpi. Mä tohtistui ihmis minnään. Nyt pitää maa. Hän on mä täpi jo. Hän se on mä kita piiksi. Ei tommoksi sä tekee ne tohvukuus, minä kanäätäpi. Ai sin skipenis komaki tapis. Ookin oksisti kojan hamuuksi. Haapäitsini katuhpaakin. Manistismikin niin päätäpiisenä. Ahtsukapio. Ki päätäpiisenä. Today I'm very glad to be here. For several reasons for identifying a lot of things, and as I mentioned when I came in, I just come from a sweat. I'd say young boys and girls, from different parts of the country in a treatment center, and I really think that this should be that way a long time ago. They don't I guess you'd say counsel them in a building. They take them out into the prairies. 2 weeks ago I was out in the prairie with them. And the other day I was out along the rivers with them. And many times before that in different areas, in the mountains. And today was a sweat. They were amazed at our way of life, that they never realize how important it is to bring your spirit back home. That's what I was doing for the last 3 months now, working with these young people. Every week I'm out there doing something with them. We just gather them, call them, and they come. And we take them out. And you don't need them in a treatment or something like that. Your treatment is where you plan that. Of course, there's meals and stuff like that. So a little bit like that I do every day, working. And as I was mentioning in my language, when you get to 80 years old, which I am, you think back of what the old people would say. Now the whole tribe is my children, grandchildren. Consider that. It brings you feeling of responsibility that is now to sit down, settle down, and tell stories with the young people so that they'll know the history of the life itself in the past. So 1940 was a long time ago, and that's when I was born. I was raised by elders. Went to school, boarding school when I was 1946 or 45. I was 5 years old. And before that, it was strictly Blackfoot language of ceremonies. The old person that raised me, Big Face Chief, that's what he was. And everybody knows him and knew him. So today I kind of vision when I do things and I see what he does. Of course I can't do what he used to do, but at least I keep what he does. Was in unity at that time. And today we have things that are happening, things that started back when alcohol opened. There's 85% of alcoholics in North America, Native people, 1967 right into the 70s. I say this because it was a sickness, that alcohol wasn't meant for us. We lost lots of friends, lots of families across the country, and lots of them had sickness, and their kids carried it, and went on, and pretty soon in the 80s, we started to realize that this wasn't ours. And by the time we decided to lay off alcohol, we have lost lots of people, lots of beautiful people, girls, women, men, and some elders too. We lost them. It's like talking today about this virus thing. Well, at that time, we all did stuff that we were supposed to be doing, which we didn't know how to do those things. But through that time, we became back as a family in the community. Before the booze opened, we were separated. The Anglicans and Catholics were separated, the East and the West. So there was always that friction between that. When they opened in 60, that thing sort of drew us together and start to realize who's our family, our cousins, on both sides of the party. Not only here in Piikani, but right across the country. That's what happened. So through that, we started to recognize our family trees, and our family ways of life. So in that, we came out of it. Eventually, we had the elders. Elders of that time, in the 80s, were very, very strong. They came out with very beautiful words, beautiful teaching, and healing, and it was amazed to, for an example, it was Indian days, and there was 3 of us there. And I told the guys in the teepee, let's quit drinking today. And the guy said, how? I told him, we'll go to the hand game, we'll look for an elder. So we went. We accepted, we okayed it, we went to the hand game. And there was an elder standing there with a blanket over his shoulder, and I went to him and I said, oh, can I see you? He doesn't talk black, but English. So we took him out a little ways from the hand game here in Brock, and told him what was going on. We were alcoholics, we were doing this, that, and he said, That's really good to hear you talk like that. Ni taams tunnat suka pimu taajuhtsi. Ano kidavat siipuks. Matsit sopa is so able. You spoke for yourselves. Nobody spoke for you. Anes kannes kannatapio. No kita paskoko. Kakohkui kaksistinsi. Ane taapsaapsu. But kamoat tän jokki. Kenes kannes kannatapio. If we say that we're going to do that, that comes from our heart, it is going to happen. And I'm very glad you said that you do, you're asking for that. And to me, understanding there was just words, encouragement, and then he stood in the middle of us, and then he told us to hold his shoulders like that. And then he faced the sun. And he said, I always remember that prayer. In fact, I used it about 5-6 times when that sun was about that place. And it worked. His words were, Nistowanno, he called himself. Hamokse Nissokus, these are my grandchildren. He didn't even know us. But he said, these are my grandchildren. And Hawkamani, they're asking for a way of life again. So I'm so glad to catch you. Now those, meaning that sun before it went down. I'm so glad to catch you before you went down. So I'm going to ask you to give them back their lives. Ips kutisa ubadipis. Hakai kunna tapio. Anoka na nisti isimatu pinani badipis. How the people drank their lives away. Today there's so few of us at that age. It's kutisa napi natus. Give them that life that you hear them asking for. And the commitment they're going to make is a commitment that they're going to work for you for the rest of their lives. To work for you. When you're ready for them, you're going to approach them. Kitsidaya kutsisida napi natusu. Amukso kya kidayo hoko kya. Kakuksisida. Hakits pomoya matapis. Kiksikim mata napino. It's very beautiful. So when you're ready for them, napi natusu. You hurt them. They wanted to release that way of life, not to live that life again. How done they said it themselves. Ichiyokto e napi. Okay, pistakapit napi natus. Go down under that precious itamatsu api. Inikitaga, kidakatana sumwa stikamatapi. It seems that the most emoji think of what they were asking for you. And so these are the ones that will help you. And so today, with that, after when it was done, we sort of went and had coffee with him. He talked different. Pretty soon, he said, well, I'm going to go check on my family playing hand game. And this is what he said when he got up. He said, Eskunet, remember, Negaikum. I'm hitting 85 and Sanyan. And you're going to see it to that piece. The way you're alone as you are, you can doctor your own self. It's in your vinasaitos. Don't ever put yourself down. Vinasai. Right now, you can shut your eyes and you can push that bad out of you. can shut your eyes and you can bring that bad out of you. That's how much power courageous children have. And you're one of the children of God. You can do it. It's in the past, and there were so many elders. You see them smoking. They're 90 years old. They're puffing away. And why are they like that? It's because they don't smoke alone. They smoke with the spirits. Ako ko to say, yeah. The spirits, they smoke with the spirits that have life. And that's the life that they live. So you shut your eyes and ask them to do this, anything, it'll push away things. That's the same thing as taking a drink like this. And when you take that drink, you ask this water to help you. He didn't have water, but he had a cup of coffee. I want to hockey sticks, the water of life. You don't go take him kind of soaks at the piece. You take it and you push it down. And when you're drinking it, you follow it. You tell it to push it. Push it, everything out of you. Focus. I'll hook na kumbakit. Matkut siyo panapio. Nyanyan sabiban. Kinon istipatipio. Anyan to cook you. Oh, my mitawa kiteno. Maksimaka at the bed. I mean, I get so what to get so get dog. I could get scatum. He's do no need to need so much. I got to get scatum one me without being custom. Anyan stop so. Chakum wati the pio. Is to genoot to bed the pio. Is then is so paki. I don't know which in the goods. Mag zeg ik daar pa toch ze. Ach iets in die katoe. Kinno na aan je gezet zou maar toch binnen die moois gezien zijn. Niet zijn bij de pio. Maar het is op na pio is het. Ach ik heb stipio. Maar het is op aan mag ik dat bij het heb ik allemaal dagpsycho. En de mogen is geen de big gaat hem eens just do up so and not my tapio. Accept stack ik check you. Is just a book to the success. Oh, you know what's the actions? I was thinking of it. When he said, we're natured people. You see those animals like that dog. Anything that comes around him, it won't. As soon as when it's going to go into his mouth, he's going to push it out. That's the same thing with us, native people. But we forgot about that. It was kind of taken away now. Now we have to go back to that kind of way. And that kind of way is that. So that animal is the same thing as us. We're natured people. And natured people can look after all what we can help one another with. So when you see this war is coming, I think of those old timers. Sakidakanis. Nagawa is the book. Sakidakanis. I'm not going to say to myself, geez, I wonder what am I going to do now? Because I know I can't do it. So why am I asking myself? Why? Now what am I going to do? No use asking it because you're not going to get an answer. Right? You have to go this other way where life is and say, Heavenly Father, help us. Give us that answer on how to help one another, how to give these things going in our life. It's right across the world, and only you can stop it. And at the same time, you vision it. Why is it here? Don't just look at it here. fishing it. So the old people will say, Trim's not do it. Penekakis do it. Don't just do it. Trim's not do it. So you start thinking of it. And what makes you think of it is you go way back to orchestra, all the big sicknesses in the past. How did they come out of it? What did they do to come out of it? The smallpox, and they brought blankets like that, so that in schools kids were just dying. So who stopped it? The elders out there of that school. Not one out of that school got sick. Just the school itself, right, got sick. And the kids were dying and dying. And the old people got together, said a prayer. And the prayer was a commitment that each one of them were going to do. And nobody knows. Just the commitment. But the only thing we knew out of it was that they made offerings. They made an offering to him so that the smallpox would stop. So they put a stop to it. And other things came too. And as you go on and on, you go through so many different level of things that happen. He got called me out this too. It's just synods we need to dump. And it all had to do with weakness of mind. History was out of us. We were just people that walked and figured that there was no tomorrow because every step we took of the missionaries was a sin. And we're all so committed people that were lived the wrong way. We're all put down, really put down. So this virus, you think back, why is it happening? Not only, but right across the world. So you look at it, and then you make something out of it. Here's the world. Something we're doing wrong. One of them is Mother Earth. We're providing. There's no thank you to her. We're sinking. And it started happening in the early 60s, I think, around there, when they put the first dam on in Saskatchewan. And then pretty soon the next dam and the next dam. And without thinking, what we were doing was we're blocking Mother Earth, her vein that comes under, that provides for her children, was getting blocked off. Right? So where's it going to go? So the level of the Arctic of West, years and millions of years never melted. All at once it started to melt, about 15 years ago now. So it starts to melt and the sea levels come. Same with us, with that sickness that we carry. So it's coming through the south end of North America, because it's filling up on this side. I'll tell you this thing because each one of us carry that kind of stuff. We carry anything that's wrong, and we don't know what's happening. If you go look at the rivers today, all the rivers are floating to the south. They're all floating to the south. So it's just like your hand. You shut this finger, next finger, next finger. What is an arm going to do? Nothing. And that's what's happening to Mother Earth. And it's us that's doing that. There's many other things that we're doing. So Mother Earth then turns around and then puts a wave that never used to come, but she let it come. She let it surface. I know the scientists will grab what we're talking about right now. Because in the Indian stories it comes from that. Pretty soon the surface, the original surface of the underworld is that sea level is coming. And that's what makes that, just like that's what the air goes through into the world. Yeah? That's what's making us sick. Yeah? Nobody will ever tell you that. But the grandpas would tell you. Yeah? Because they talked about it. Yeah? Yeah? Again, I repeat it. Is that sea level is floating, and it's from that, all that thing that's under rises, and then it evacuates into air, evacuates into rain, evacuates into that, and then it crosses the country. So who takes it first? The animal, where it happened first. Yeah. Where it never had water before, from that sea levels that went through. And pretty soon they said, this is where it started. Because the guy ate a rat. Well, think of it. For millions and millions of years, that rat ate anything. All at once, he ate something that affected us. So, knowing that as Native people, what do? We put organs in. Yeah. The same thing as this. If I had to put dirt in here and you leave it overnight, that dirt is going to settle. And the only way it's going to come up is if you come along and tip it. Yeah. And eventually it's going to evaporate. You can be both millionaires today. The people know what we're talking about. Because they seek it. Next week on the 5th to the 11th, I'm going to be in Winnipeg. And we're talking about just what I said here. It's about the waves. And there's going to be some scientists there. Yeah. So I'll be the first ones to know what's going on. And this all came from that old elder that we picked to say some prayers for us. Yeah. When he came back and told us, anything that you're taking, say what that doesn't belong to his body, to our body, he will vomit it out. And then pretty soon he died. So those are things that, so what do? That's when you turn around and you tell, it's a bad thing, it's wrong. Keep walking. Help us. I say, all my children, all our grandchildren, stop this. And I'm asking for the world, right? Not only servants. Ask the world to stop it. And we'll do this. That's when that commitment comes in. Right? You always have to make a commitment when you ask for something. And it gives you that balance of continuing helping other people as you journey in life. So again, as Native people, when you're feeling sick, you as an individual, you can push it away. We'll learn to push things away. You just shut your eyes and just push it. I don't want it. I don't want it. The spirit of your body, tell them to help you, and it will go. For an example, this patient had cancer, stomach cancer. nurse had a needle, and she had another kind of a case, and she was shaking this powder. And then she got this needle that had fluid in there. She shot it all in there, and then she shook it. Pretty soon it turned like this. And when it got like that, she turned to that guy. She took in his shirt, pinched the body into her. In 2 seconds or 5 seconds, it was all gone. So what did he have? He had cancer, stomach cancer. Yeah. And that powder, Mother Earth, he mixed with that fluid, that little, whatever it called, pushes that thing. And pretty soon you're free from that. Yeah. So me as a witness seeing all that, I asked that lady. It's just like her, she had that veil on. She pulled it off. She was a Chinese woman. She said, you Native people all have that power. History tells us that when you have a headache, you can push it away. You don't need aspirin. When you have stomach or have any food, history tells us you can push it away too, because you have a spirit, and that spirit helps you to push it away. I told her, where did you learn this? She said, I was raised in that way in China. The Native America have the greatest gift yeah, of knowing these things. So with this virus, call your spirit in the morning. Morris, we're going to go do this today. Let's go and help them. So in your all day, I'm not alone. I'm with my spirit. I know because I called them. And we all have that same thing too. Kato ani o kita pis. Siki no kains katsimatsis kita kutaka. Kids, call you your spirit. And that's the words that they told us to use. Beautiful things in life, right? Beautiful things in a way. Next week I'll be talking about before Europeans came. Right? I mentioned it to Eric the other day. Young people are asking about where before the Europeans came. And these are all kinds of kids, not just native kids. They want to know how we survived, what we did in life, all these things, eh? How it was so beautiful and strong. And we heard it was beautiful. We know about politics, we know about jobs, we know about health, we know all these things, but what we don't know is life before Europeans came. Yeah? They want to know about that, yeah? And that's the key that generates life itself. Right? And in short words, like Grandma would say, Pisxatus, Kizit spiso tuk, Sibadipio, and Nekvabadapi. 9 months before you were born, the Father, Heavenly Father, picked you of one of his little angels, Pisxatus. And you understood the mom's chicky. That's how important you are. Kimachi to stop me that piece. Oh, kikidao tuk. It is a sapi place. Exist. It's a pot. Kende makisida mo de pipoka. Iokita pipoka. Ida puntska. Se päätipia. Tukunska tsiva. Amaksi ukuks. Isi tomani sipuutu miota. Oke me. Napi waanse. Kene tukunska tsia me. Puka. Esksaatu siva kitsi päätipia. Ane kan studita mapsti. Missä suksi kiippi päätä piiksen niitä. Se tuu. Se on kekakot huikiopa. Hän on kriisikoi vaatit sopei puhutumia. As mitä eksistää pitää yksimistä. Se eksistää pitää saa. Innona. Niin se kimmokiua. Iskukio. Nyan se vipäät. You were picked out of many little angels. He'd picked you. That's why today they'll say, Heavenly Father made me. That's true. Out of all these little angels, millions of them, and took them and put them in your mother. Yeah. Then he worshipped a man to call Father, to come into this. 9 months after. Yeah. And when you came into this world, you came in with responsibility. Yeah? Responsibility. And responsibility was either you're in society. Everybody was in society, especially the Blackwood one. You were born into society. And in those societies, you'll have conditions, regulations that you grow up with. And pretty soon you knew everything that happens as you were grown. Responsibility was given to you. That's why they were so strong, they were so united, they worked all together, and nothing can ever break them from that. That was before Europeans came. One of the greatest stories that came out about Eastern Blackwood. And it's going to go across the world eventually, once we tell those kind of stories. So these are things that's happening, beautiful things. And with that, there's a lot more to talk about. But like Eric said, you come back next week, I'll come with my drum and tell you some more stories about the gifts that the grandpas had. Certain things that they use. It's pretty free today. We talk about it. How come we don't talk about it? Even the societies don't talk about it. We have to start talking about things like that, so that young people grow up that way. Hanya, so it's exkocht. Hanya.